Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you're dialing in from. Appreciate your time today. My name is Ted Ritter. I'm the co-chair of the IT community of IFMA. A little bit about the IT community. We're really all about sharing best practices, case studies, and answering the question, how does technology support CRE and FM? We are one of the oldest components of IFMA, and but look at the next slide. We are very well distributed geographically. I think we've got members in over 32 countries now, and gives us a really good international view of how technology in the industry. We do have a pretty active, if you want to take advantage of following us and stay in touch with the latest and greatest posts we got. Go ahead and click on the QR code. Give you just another moment to grab that. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide as well. So, we have a resource page. We've got over 100 articles and publications available there. We tend to post about once a month. This QR code will take you to the resource page. Checklists, white papers, excerpts, replays of webinars like we're doing today. Go ahead and go to the next slide, please, Derek. Really looking forward to today's webinar, piloting a successful digital twin project. I think I've always got to do a couple of housekeeping announcements. Yes, we will share a link to the recorded version of the session, as well as a copy of the deck that will be sent out to everyone. And I'm really happy to have Chris and Derek with Landtech with us today to talk about digital twins and pilots. And appreciate your sponsorship and your thought leadership. I'll turn it over to Chris Lorraine at this point.
Thanks, Ted. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. Our discussion today is going to be regarding digital twins. Just give you a little bit about Landtech. Landtech has been around for 35 years, actually, this past February. Landtech's a civil engineering and land surveying company, heavily invested in technology. We got into digital twins and reality capture probably about 15 years ago. Digital twins being the new buzzword that's cropped up probably in the last 3 or 4 years. But reality capture has been known for quite a while as far as laser scanning and collecting immense amounts of data, creating 3D models for renovation projects, restoration, and so forth. And now digital twins have come into play with taking those models or taking that digital representation and incorporating it with some intelligence to utilize for better facility management, better asset management, better operations, a whole list of things where digital twins are found to be useful. Just a little bit about digital twins. What are digital twins? We've all heard the term in the last half a dozen years, but if you ask 10 different people, you're going to get 10 different answers as to exactly what a digital twin is. And I can't necessarily say that I disagree with those 10 different definitions that you'd probably hear. However, in our instance, a digital twin is a digital replication of some feature or function of a building or a facility that's under operation that is incorporated with some type of intelligence that assists you with the management and operation of that particular facility. That's kind of broad ranging. It can be a 2D representation. It can be a 3D representation, and you're going to see some examples of both today from Derek. But in any event, our interpretation of a digital twin is it is incorporated with some type of intelligence. It can be incorporated with another platform of asset management data or facility management data, work order systems, remote sensing, multiple platforms that are able to be accessed within the digital functionality of your digital twin. Again, whether it be a 2D floor plan layout, a 3D model, or a combination of both. It can be horizontal, it can be vertical, We're going to show you examples of all of that today. And we're going to talk to you about what you can do to start on a pilot program to see how it incorporates into your particular facility and how it benefits you in your particular facility, and the benefits and the features that you get with that in the ease of operation, addressing multiple functions that we have a lot of clients that have different reasons, but whether it be to take that intelligence that is in your current operator's head that's been there for 30 years, that's getting ready to retire, and you need to transfer that onto the next generation. How do you do that? You do that within digital twin. How do you see what's happening within your facility from a remote location? You do that within a digital twin. How do you utilize AI to predict maintenance issues within your facility? You do that through remote sensing in a digital twin. All different areas where it can come into play. So with that, I'll turn it over to Derek and let's get into it.
I think we're going to do a poll first, right, Ted?
I think we're going to do a poll first.
Yeah.
Ten seconds or so. We'll see what the results look like.
I feel like we should get like the Jeopardy music going in the background.
Yeah, we should. That would be good.
That doesn't come by like default in these, Ted?
Let's see what our results look like. Oh, interesting. So none at all. Welcome. I think you get some good insights on how to approach digital twins and what they can do for your organization. Beginning discussions, I like that. I think I'm going to pass the group at the end, the partial portfolio implementation of what you've been doing. But thanks for sharing that. That gives us really good insight. Derek, take it away.
Thanks. That's good. And I think that kind of coincides with what we've seen from our perspective, where digital twins are really starting to get a foothold, right? And be more than a buzzword and get up off the ground. And that's really what we talk about here, and what this webinar is about, is how to get up off the ground and have a successful pilot. So just by way of introduction, Derek Lutchko, GIS manager at Landtech. And I'm going to talk us through a little bit about what is a pilot, right? And many of you probably know, some of you maybe not, but let's just make sure we're on the same ground. So, okay, pilots. Here's some pilots, right? Maybe not exactly what we're talking about. One of my favorites, Airplane. Love that movie. Don't tell Chris, but I might have gone down a little bit of an internet rabbit hole, reading movie quotes and laughing to myself while pulling this together. Sure, these are pilots. The other one, also kind of funny, right? But this is actually a really good example. Hear me out. I'm sure many of you know Seinfeld, probably were fans. Like me, you had every DVD or every season on DVD at some point, back when we watched DVDs. But I think it's a good relatable example, and something kind of alternative to what we're talking about as to what a pilot is and what a good pilot is. I didn't watch the pilot episode when it came out, but it really did kind of test this new approach, this new way of thinking about a TV show, and churned out really one of the greatest shows on television. So, I may come back to that once or twice, but I do think it is a good way to like think about it from a different angle as to what a good pilot is. But now for the real stuff, enough of the jokes. What is a pilot project? So I'm sure you all use AI in some form or fashion. I mean, even in a Google search, it comes up, but this is what kind of the AI overview is, a small scale preliminary experiment that helps determine feasibility, effectiveness, and potential outcomes of a larger project before that's implemented. And really, I think kind of the key points that we think about with pilot projects are proof of concept, right? We often hear those kind of in the same breath, pilot and proof of concept. It's really about new ideas, these new concepts, or more commonly new to us ideas, right? Technology has been out there, but maybe for your organization, your company, your local government, you may not have implemented this, right? So these ideas aren't necessarily new, but they're new to you. And really, you do want to test that viability, right? You might want to understand better how something works, understand what kind of issues you might face given your specific situation, and test out those workflows. Like, how do you adapt your existing operation or organization to leverage these new technologies? And Seinfeld did this, right? Prior to, you kind of had one storyline. Seinfeld really pioneered this idea of different individual storylines. So, Jerry was doing something, Elaine was doing something, George was, and somehow they all ended up together. That was kind of new at the time, right? Same with like anti-heroes. These people were a little despicable, right? They weren't your typical main character, right? But we loved them, right? That was new though. That was not something that you saw often. And then there's a couple other things there that maybe we take for granted now, but they piloted this, right? They tried it out. They worked on it, and next thing you know, they've kind of changed how things were done and proven out. So that's what a pilot project is, right? Why do we do them? Lots of reasons. Managing risk. I mean, this is kind of an overarching theme, but that's really it. Do you buy a brand new Honda Pilot without test driving it? No, right? And same with implementing a new system, trying out a new technology, new approach to things. It's worthwhile to test it out, right? And in doing that, you're going to reduce uncertainty, right? You don't always know enough to say one way or the other if this is going to work for us. And you can do lots of research and more research, but oftentimes doing a pilot can really accelerate that understanding and multiply your efforts to reduce what you don't know. And in a way that increases your confidence, right? In one way or the other, right? You may do a pilot and realize, oh wow, we didn't understand all of these things that we need to consider. Maybe we need to go in a different direction. Or more often, you see we've understood what it takes. We've seen that it's maybe not as hard as it needs to be. And now we've got more confidence to move forward than we did prior to the pilot. And really, you do develop a more detailed everything, a more detailed understanding of what you're getting into. Definitely a more detailed scope of work. We find that often, right? You can come up with this kind of conceptual, this is what we want to do. But anytime you're dealing with technology, the devil's in the details. And by having a pilot, you can have a better understanding and understand more of your technical requirements and what is really in that scope of work. And that helps both the client and the vendor if you're working with a vendor. So you kind of get a better outcome there. You also get to know each other better. If you're doing a pilot with a vendor, like Landtech or another service provider, right? We get to know the client, we get to understand the state of the data and the processes better. And then the client gets to understand not only the technology, but how, we operate as a provider, the services, the capabilities, the expertise, right? So you also get to increase your confidence on kind of the people side, right? Who you're working with and how that will work together successfully. And we come back to this a lot. You're really bridging the gap between research, right, and the full implementation, right? You think you got the right idea here. How do we get from there to here? And pilot project is a really good way to bridge that gap. And how do you do them? You do just enough. I mean, that's a good way to kind of look at it, right? You want to balance kind of that investment, and we think of pilot projects as a good way to kind of minimize risk on a financial perspective, right, and a resource perspective. Where, okay, what do we need to know to feel confident enough to move forward fully, right? And so that comes into how much time you're going to spend, how much effort, how much resources, and what you're going to tackle in that project, right? Certain things would be in scope because these are major deal breakers. So we really want to stress test them in the pilot project. And these are our main objectives. So let's make sure that we test them and prove that they're going to work. Once we do that, the rest can work itself out, but we need to make sure those things. So you want to do just enough. And that is really dependent on the client. The other thing you have to think about is, where do we place this pilot project? And there's really that kind of two ways to think about it. Maybe it can be its own standalone project, and more maybe like a feasibility evaluation here, right? We're going to do this pilot project, and it's going to determine, do we do the full project, or do we circle back and rethink what we're going to do? So it could be a standalone evaluation. We've also done these many times where it's part of a larger project. It's just phase one, right? Which helps you not only prove things out, but kind of plan that project with a better understanding. You got to set objectives. I mentioned that a little bit earlier, but very key to do that front-loaded step there of planning and setting your objectives, so you know whether or not your pilot is successful. And who's going to be involved, right, from a stakeholder perspective. Very, very important, right? You want to get the right people involved, and are they going to be actively involved? Do they just need to know? But you want to make sure you've got those folks represented, because not only is a pilot project for maybe the technical components and understanding them, but also the organizational components, right? And making sure that you've got those pieces covered. And yeah, on the who's involved piece, are you going to do it by yourself? DIY is always an option, or are you going to have a vendor involved or vendors? So those are considerations. And the last piece about kind of what are pilots, how do we do them, why do we do them, is really what should you watch out for, right? And so here's just a list of things that, we've done a lot of pilots. We love them here at Landtech. We think they're a really great stepping stone, but things to look out for. You don't want to rush, right? You want to do the things right and plan and take your time. You don't want to rush that piece of it, because you may miss important things. You don't want to be disorganized with it. You want to make sure that everybody's on the same page with expectations. That way that, people aren't thinking that they're getting more than they should out of it, or the level of detail is different. Make sure everybody's on the same page there. You definitely want to have clear direction as to what you're looking to accomplish here. That goes right along with setting objectives. Usually want to keep them short. Don't want them to kind of drag on and on. So if you do your planning and your setting of objectives, you can keep them kind of on that shorter time frame. That also kind of reduces your investment and your risk and whatnot as well. And you want to make sure you don't have resource constraints. Don't underestimate what it takes, on the client side to have a successful pilot, and make sure that the people are freed up and can contribute in an effective way. So that's all I have for kind of what is a pilot, and how do you do it? What's important to think about? We'll get to the fun part where we'll show some videos and examples of different pilots we've done, which I hope will spur some discussion. Before we get into that part, we'll take a quick break for a poll here, I think, if you're ready, Ted.
Absolutely. Go for it.
Yeah, and what benefits are most important to you? There's a lot of benefits to digital twins, and no right or wrong answers here, and there's probably a combination of answers for everybody, but curious to see what everyone says.
Yeah, and we took the benefits list from the digital twin survey we did in 2023, and I've had a good number of people around the world respond to that. So looking forward to see what our audience has. I think everybody's probably had a moment to answer the questions. Let's see what the results look like. I think people see a lot of benefits.
Yeah,
That's a
I was going
really,
down in order, and I'm like, wait a minute, they're all 50,
they're
close or
all up
more.
there.
So yeah, no, that's great. That is great.
The clear leader was simple document access. Um, Spatial visualization of other data. Really good response. Appreciate everybody's feedback on that. We'll, when we do our follow-up and share the recording and whatnot, we'll share the info on what everybody said their engagement level with digital twins was, as well as benefits. And I think we're moving on to case studies now.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's great, and it's nice to see everybody thinking in that vein. We're gonna start off with a video, and this there's no sound here, right? That's sometimes tough on a webinar, but I'm just gonna kind of talk through it and what we're showing here. This is gonna show a lot of what you guys just answered on that poll. Right. And so this video takes you through really a proof of concept that we put together to demonstrate all of the capabilities and values in it. So you're seeing here, one of the top answers, the ability to explore in 3D, right? And so right out of the box, you've got a lot of options here to explore your 3D model. Now we scanned and modeled these facilities that you see in the video here and in the other examples. And by integrating them in the digital twin, you can explore those in 3D. And this next bit talks about a little bit about different IT systems, right? You've got different systems to manage asset management, work orders, who knows what else, right? There's a system for everything, usually something specialized. And in this view, you can see how we're bringing those together in a page we call all access. So this first part shows you asset data. This might be stored right in your GIS, or you might be feeding it from your asset management system. You also get your work orders, right? We can bring them in and show them right within the same view, or your operational data, your SCADA data, or other remote sensing systems. And you can deep dive into these other systems even further if you choose to. Documents, one click away, right? Specific to the asset that you've clicked on in your interactive 3D model, right? So all of that is really valuable to be able to have it at your fingertips. And this is going to show you a little more about those IT systems, right? So not only can you access them in there, but the way we have this set up, it keeps those systems in sync, right? You're looking at an Esri-based GIS solution here, right? This is in ArcGIS Online. And we're using that as your system of engagement. But we've integrated it with Maximo in this case for an asset management system. And what you're seeing on the screen is the ability to manage that data in either interface, whether it's Maximo or GIS, right? And those systems stay in sync. You're not updating in both places. You're not going to have out-of-date data in one place and up-to-date data in the other, right? We keep them both in sync so that you're always looking at accurate, up-to-date data, but you're being able to do it in, from the perspective that is most comfortable with you. And sometimes it is this kind of digital twin interface like we've built out here. And sometimes you're used to working in your native system, right? But we give you the option there, right? So that you can interact with it, right? And quickly find things you need, right? So you were able to view that work order right from that digital twin interface. It brings you right into the native system. And if you want to update it there, right, you'll see it gets updated right in your digital twin interface here in GIS. So I think that talks a lot about integrating different systems, and you can take it further, right, and build out those systems. Here you'll see we're in that native system on a work order. Well, where is that asset? Click a button, it brings you right back into your digital twin, into your 3D model it created, so you can find that asset at the click of a button, right? And here, this last bit here on the integration shows how, right, if you want to initiate a new work order right from your digital twin system right here, you can do that, right? You can configure that. There's lots of options on how you kind of configure those integrations. And while it is different to every organization or customer, like, you've got that flexibility. And that's a really a really nice piece, just like this kind of dashboarding piece. What you're seeing here is the ability to take that data and bring it into really this GIS centric system. Allows you to do lots with it, subject to your requirements, as the client. Oh, wait, I'm not gonna play it again for you, don't worry. So that's kind of, we put that video together. You can access that video at our YouTube channel as well if you want to review it. I'm sure we can put that out there as a follow-up. But we think that's a nice way that succinctly shows kind of a lot of the different capabilities there. I'm going to take you through just some slides that walk through some other notable examples of pilot projects we've done. This first one, City of DeKalb, we modeled 2 of 5 of their major facilities there. So we scanned them, modeled them, converted them into GIS, and then we built links for asset management and documentations in there, right? And just getting that together and giving them that capability, both within Pro and ArcGIS Online, gave them a lot of insight and access they didn't previously had. And you can see here, Justin, who's the utility superintendent, really was really pleased with the outcome we had there. That without this, kind of getting that information and finding it was really difficult, but enabling this made it a lot easier. And you'll see right here, I tried to put in a kind of a succinct little something, seeing is believing, right? In this case, this pilot, they got to see that benefit, that value, right? Versus just kind of conceptually talking about it. So they got that benefit from doing that project. This one, another water utility, Veolia. The objective for this pilot was to create an easy way to locate and interact with their vertical assets and the work order process. So we scanned, modeled, and converted to GIS one of their facilities, and we integrated it with their work management system, specifically the mobile component. And we enabled those mobile capabilities in partnership with them and their work management system software company. And so we tested the viability. We gave them kind of demo resources that they can shop around internally to show how this is better. And we had a really good outcome there. Some of the lessons, right, was through that partnership, we identified this bug with the compatibility between their work management system and some of the Esri core offerings, right? And we're able to work through that and fix that prior to doing a whole project. So that's a good benefit of doing that pilot to iron out some things like that are unforeseen, and really use that to build interest internally. A lot of interest is building there within Veolia to expand and do more. City of Riverside, California. The objective here was to create that 3D geodatabase capable of integrating with Oracle with their asset management platform. And you could see Ernest here, after seeing Lantec's capabilities, we immediately recognized 3D GIS as a solution to improve our vertical asset management for our treatment plant, right? So this was a really good story there where, we were able to, provide these deliverables, and again, they were able to see with their own assets and their own data that it was beneficial. And you see I got sharing is caring there. They shared this outside of just kind of the water utility, and other parts of the city saw the benefit, right, and got the wheels turning about how do we leverage that elsewhere. LCPA. So LCPA, you might not recognize that acronym. I mean, that's the Lee County Port Authority of Southwest Florida, the Southwest Florida International Airport, so really Fort Myers Airport. They were interested in ArcGIS Indoors as a way to map their indoor space and leverage a good platform to increase their asset management capabilities, provide routing and whatnot. They are a limited GIS team there. And so their objective was, hey, let's quickly stand this up and understand more about indoors. What can it do? What are the resource requirements? What are the workflows? And so we turned this one around really, really quickly for them. and they really got to fast track their understanding, right? You can watch videos, you can watch webinars, but when you work with your own data and your own assets or facilities, you kind of get this accelerated understanding, and that's what they got at LCPA. They were able to see their data, understand kind of the conversion process and what that looks like, test out the capabilities and say, hey, we like this, we don't like that. We understand what it takes to maintain it and move forward with it. So all of those things were really positive for them, and the product of kind of just a small pilot, right? That went quickly and got them what they were looking for in a quick manner. Next one, so LCPA was small, quick. This one is much larger and longer, but this is a really good example that I could talk a lot about. I'll try to keep it short, but there is a lot to talk about here, right? This is one instance where the pilot project was not its own separate evaluation, but rather phase one of a much larger project, right? And so the University of Denver is leveraging ArcGIS Indoors for space management. And the way that they approached the pilot project was, let's take 4 buildings instead of the 120, right? And let's build out what we're looking for in these 4 buildings, from the data migration to the specialized, apps that we want to enable the space management workflows. And I think it's a really great example. What we did in the pilot was, DU picked the 4 hardest buildings you can imagine. Some very huge, expansive athletic complexes, some very, very old historic buildings with lots of different mezzanines and whatnot. And it was a good way to kind of pressure test what was possible and how to approach it. And we identified a lot of considerations that we were able to apply to the full project implementation. Some of the lessons I like to talk about here is we did have some very broad stakeholder involvement and invested a lot up front in kind of the discovery phase to understand, what do you really mean by these scope items? What does that equate to in this project? And we're able to refine those technical requirements quite a bit and really get to what we wanted, what they wanted, right? And what the best approach was for it. Some of the things that were a little unanticipated, I think, were team building and orientation. We worked with somebody who was relatively new to DU, not to space management. She has a great long career in that, but relatively new to DU. And in doing kind of that stakeholder outreach, that kind of got folks to know her, the space management. She got to better understand some of the stakeholder departments we were working with. So there was some benefits there, right? Through that stakeholder involvement, we identified a lot of trends that maybe weren't groundbreaking. Like someone would say, yeah, that makes sense. But, we did the research really to back it up. And we could say, we had this many meetings with this many different departments. This really is a trend. This really is a pain point, right? So it validated some of the things that they wanted to do. And through that, outside of implementing a software solution, they reviewed and refined some of their existing procedures and processes as a result of, the findings of some of that discovery work. So really a unique use case here, but a great example of how just the beginning part, the pilot project portion of this larger great project, yielded some good benefits. This is another one, Anne Arundel County Public Schools. It's another ArcGIS Indoors solution that this pilot project was for. They've got in Maryland, this is in the state of Maryland, and in Maryland, the public school systems are county by county, right? And so in Anne Arundel County, there's over 120 schools, about 85,000 students. And this is a good one here, where they didn't have a way to to understand, manage, and organize their floor plans and their space data, right? And they knew that ArcGIS Indoors was a viable solution. They have GIS and leverage it in other ways. And so their objective here, let's better understand what's possible and if this is a good solution for us. So we took 4 buildings and we started small. We did it very much piece by piece, one school at a time, imported, used a simple app to collect and verify, and we really iterated and iterated. I mean, we built very simple, worked on a building. As we worked on, the client would say, can we do this? Can we do that? We added these little pieces, iterate, and so very organically it built to fit their needs. We're moving forward and adding more schools for them now post pilot, which is kind of a good story. One of the things I like to talk about here, and I mentioned it earlier, they got to know us, right? They got to know the solution better, but they also got to know what it's like to work with land tech, and what that process could look like, how it can be collaborative, and also leverage our expertise to do those things. And they were. Here's, I asked Howard, why should you do a pilot? He said, I don't know why you do it in any other way. And, it really built trust in the vendor and you guys. So I think I really like that example of how we kind of started very small, built it piece by piece, and, got to understand each other, and we're moving forward and got them on a good foundation for the future. And in Maryland, they've got some outstanding new legislature that will go through with some requirements, and they're already 2-3 steps ahead because they went forward with this pilot and got on board. So that's it for kind of the prepared examples. These were some specific ones that we thought showed a lot of different variability, both kind of in industry, in approach, maybe solution type. There's plenty more to talk about. We are going to open it up for maybe discussion and question. My last piece, really kind of to wrap it up, is pilots are a good idea. I don't think you can convince me otherwise, but they'll succeed when you don't take them too lightly, right? Like, it's an important step. You want to make sure you have the right resources and you invest in that first step, because it'll pay dividends. You want to spend time understanding why you're doing this, what are you looking to get out of it, right? And define those objectives. Make a commitment, not just financially, but also time and resources. And you will also realize some non-obvious benefits, right? Where you'll do some team building, you might unearth some hidden trends, and you might get related but unrelated process improvements out of it. So there's a lot of good outcomes there. You do want to take some things into consideration, though, and I think we've shed some light on those. Okay,
just a few things to point out there, Derek. In those examples, obviously you saw examples of utilities, from water treatment facilities to educational facilities and an airport. Each user has distinct and different requirements that they need to garner from their digital twin. In the utilities, very heavy MEP intensive. They're looking for information as to their mechanical assets and so forth within the developments, within their projects. In the case of the airport as well as educational, it's more a space use based information that they're looking to garner out of it. Where are their academic classrooms? How much space is for administrative? How much space is for sports? And it's specific requirements for each individual user. And we find these out during the process of the discussions with them. In the case of Denver University, they wanted to know a lot of information as far as where their grants being utilized within their facilities, and what are the name of those grants, and when are those particular classrooms being used. Each user has a different requirement, and based on those requirements, there may be different platforms that we want to get that particular digital twin into. You've been shown a lot of cases where ArcGIS Pro and ArcGIS Indoors has come into play because a lot of those particular institutions already have an ArcGIS database. They already utilize ArcGIS, so it's a good platform to run their digital twin in. A lot of facilities use Autodesk in some format. Autodesk has a great platform in Autodesk Tandem, and utilizing a digital twin within Autodesk Tandem and extracting the information from that is also an extremely good platform to be used. There are some individual platforms that are very good to be utilized as well. PlanOn has a very good platform. All these are good platforms which you can draw from your digital twin to get the information that you need in your specific case.
Thanks, Chris. We've got a couple of questions coming in. I know you answered one in the chat, Chris, but I think it's really a good question, kind of following what you just said from Scott. How do you decide which software platform to use for the digital twin? And, you know, was there a software you're aware of? If they didn't have some, you kind of answered that, but I think it's important that everybody hear your answer, which is quite robust to that particular question.
Sure. I think, you know, again, if you're looking for spatial accuracy of equipment that may be in your facility, if you have a manufacturing facility and you're looking for spatial accuracy of where that manufacturing facility is, and you need it in a horizontal as well as a vertical application, you may be better off with an ArcGIS platform to utilize that for that information, because ArcGIS is better at identifying location of where something is within a horizontal or a vertical aspect. However, if you're a hospital and ArcGIS is not something that you're currently using, you're probably better off utilizing an Autodesk Tandem platform to run your digital twin in, or even a PlanOn platform to run a digital twin on. PlanOn is a very good platform. It's not as well known. And therefore, it's more or less a specialty platform for just a digital twin application type of aspect. Although there are many modules of PlanOn that assist with facility management, asset management, that type of thing. But if you're looking for a standalone platform that will bring in other platforms that you already have for your asset management, facility management, that type of thing, work orders, that type of thing, and you're looking for just a standalone platform to run your digital twin on, then Autodesk Tandem or ArcGIS Indoors is probably the way you want to go. And they can bring in those other platforms, those other EAM systems that you already have. Because the goal here is to keep your costs at a minimum and not to bring in a platform that makes you have to start from scratch all over again with your EAM and your work order system and that type of thing.
Great. Thank you, Chris. Leverage on what you already got for sure. Next question is from John. I'm going to throw this one at Derek. It's actually, I think, a two-part, maybe even a three-part question.
Oh, geez.
I know, right, man?
If I get extra credit if I get them all right.
You'll do great. You know this stuff. How long did the DU pilot take to get the initial deliverable within GIS? How long did that take?
I mean, I think we had our first version of the deliverable. I guess it depends if you include all the discovery. We had a lot of meetings, right, to meet with all the different stakeholders, and that took time from a scheduling perspective, right? So, call that something separate, right? Because that's going to vary from place to place. But once you have that understanding, that discovery done of what we want, we pulled that together quickly, kind of the first iteration, maybe a few weeks, right, to migrate their data in, build out the couple of things that they wanted, and showed them, hey, here's kind of the rough sketch and what it looks like and how it works. So that can, I mean, again, that varies, right? But you can get something pretty quickly. And we always put the caveat, hey, this is a prototype, it's a wire diagram, but better to do that quick and get feedback and then revise, versus take a long time to build something and then find out that you missed a mark.
Excellent. I think that answered the question well. Thank you. Got another question. And it has to do with ROI for digital twins. Do you think it can be calculated in advance of actually doing the pilot, in advance of actually doing that?
I think it depends. I guess it depends on, kind of your answers to what are the benefits that are most important to you, right? It probably depends on the perspective of your organization's leadership as well. I think there are some instances where there's some very hard dollars that are saved by reducing named user licenses to certain systems that you might integrate with your digital twin, right? So those particular ROI numbers are a little simpler and more straightforward. So you can certainly consider that if that is applicable to your situation. If you've got certain serious operational risks associated with the lack of information or known issues or incidents that have occurred, right? You can kind of take those into consideration to build out ROI, and then the state of your situation with respect to efficiency, right? Like if your technicians are spending a ton of time on an administrative front or looking for the right documents, there's different approaches. ROI is always kind of tricky, especially if it's not as straightforward as, well, we got rid of this system and we're using this now. So I think the short answer is yes, you can to some extent. The success of that, ROI pitch does depend on what's included in it and the appetite for those solutions within your organization.
I think what you also end up with is the unanticipated ROI and the unanticipated benefits that we discussed before as well. As we were doing the Denver University pilot, their problem came up while we were entering in their data and so forth, and that a sprinkler, I think it was a sprinkler head, Derek, that had gone off in one of the buildings, or a couple of sprinkler system had gone off of the building and had flooded out some of the spaces within their building. And they had to scramble very quickly to find where they could move those spaces to, what classrooms, what spaces were available in other areas to continue operations come Monday morning. I think that happened on like a Friday afternoon or a Thursday afternoon or something, Derek.
Doesn't it always?
Yeah.
Middle of the night.
And the benefit was that fortunately, Derek and his team had been working on data migration and had been entering in the information that was necessary, so that very quickly, Derek was able to respond and show them, well, wait a minute, we have all that information already within the digital twin that's been entered that we've been working on. We can very quickly show you what is available in what particular building at what particular time, and what the capacity of those areas are to be able to move those classrooms and continue on as if nothing happened come Monday morning. And that's something that obviously is not anticipated. It's not what the pilot was run for. It's not what the initial purpose of doing a digital twin was for. But these are the unanticipated benefits that very quickly show up when you have a successful implementation of a digital twin.
Yeah, we saved them a lot of time to kind of come up with different plans, because we had what Chris is talking about is Space Planner. If you're not familiar with ArcGIS Indoors, it's one of the configurable apps that you can configure with that system. Really great user interface, makes it easy to kind of plan different scenarios. And yeah, it was just really convenient that we had that in place for them.
Excellent. I think we've got time for just one more question. We'll see if anyone wants to pop something into the Q&A. I'm going to put this one in between both of you guys. How do you get started? What's your advice on getting started? And I'm going to embellish it a little bit with what does an organization need to do internally before they reach out to a partner vendor such as yourself? What would you suggest?
I think what you want to do, as Derek has said, the biggest thing with a pilot is start small. Pick a small area. Pick a, if you have a 120 building campus, pick a couple of buildings to start with. If you've got a large manufacturing facility, pick a small corner of the manufacturing facility. Or if you have a hospital, pick one wing or one floor of one wing of a hospital to start with. Utilize what you already have. If you already have a building information model for your facility, use it. If you already have a CAD plan, or even if you have PDFs, use what you have. Don't go to the extent necessarily of getting a complete laser scan and 3D model built and so forth if you don't have to. We can integrate in what you already have. So use that information to keep your costs to the minimum. And then take the time to sit with someone like Derek to discuss what it is that you are looking to get out of that pilot project and out of that digital twin. Make your determination up front and have those discussions, and invite other players within your organization to join in that discussion to see where they might benefit as well from that situation. You might be in facility management and you might see the benefit of doing this, which is fine. And if you're in, I'd say, a hospital situation, you might see the benefit of facility management. But maybe you're not thinking that, there's going to be a benefit for maybe the billing department as well, in knowing what patients are in what rooms at what particular time, and so forth. And they're going to be able to get a benefit out of this as well. So rather than your entire department footing the bill for this, you can spread that among multiple departments within a particular situation so that everybody receives the benefit of what you're getting from this digital twin.
Excellent. Thank you, Chris. That was very, very articulate. So I think, teamwork, conversation, identifying, what would be an appropriate amount of square footage or square meters to pilot with. I think, some of the IT community research that we've done, do an inventory of what data sources you have before you come to the table. Figure out, what you can leverage. That was great, guys. Thank you so much. Before the last, I think, Chris, you got one more poll for us. Bonus poll.
Ooh, a bonus. All right.
This one should be easier. The least questions of all three polls. On behalf of the IT community, we want to thank Lantech for sponsoring this webinar. You guys have shared some great data today. We will follow up and share the deck, share the recording. I think we'll share a link to that video you showed, Derek, because that was pretty impressive.
Yeah, that'd be good.
And really did highlight what is possible. And with that, have a great rest of your week and look for some follow-up from us shortly. Thanks, everybody, for attending today.
Thanks, Ted. Thanks, everyone. Have a good one.
Thanks, everybody.